My husband built his own company from nothing. No inheritance, no influence, just honest work. I destroyed it for a taste of power and prestige. I thought I was helping when I cheated on him with his investor's son. It wasn't love or boredom. I cheated because I wanted more influence, more recognition, more than he ever dreamed of. I didn't just destroy him. I destroyed everything he had built for us. We met when I was 22, working a reception desk at a co-working space. He had a desk in the back corner and a backpack full of wires, circuits, and late-night ramen. I fell for his mind before I even learned his last name. He wasn't handsome in the typical sense. He didn't command a room. But there was a kindness in him, a stillness, a way of listening that made you feel like your words mattered. He offered stability in a world that always felt like it was caving in on me. We started dating. We moved in together. I encouraged him to go all in on his idea, a platform to help small businesses automate inventory systems. Not sexy, but smart. We got married in a courthouse. No flowers, no crowd, just the two of us and his worn-out shoes. I loved him then. But I also saw something else in him. Escape. As his company grew, I became his unofficial business partner. I didn't know tech, but I knew people. I could work a room, shake hands, schmooze, helped him polish pitches. I taught him how to look confident even when he was drowning inside. I made calls, booked meetings, studied term sheets I barely understood. And when the money started coming in, so did the attention. Startups talk about founders' wives, like we're accessories. But I made myself indispensable. I wasn't some trophy. I was the bridge between his genius and the people who wrote checks. Still, something in me itched, like I was still pretending. Still playing dress-up with people who could smell that I didn't belong. And then I met Spencer. Spencer was one of the investor's sons. He wasn't impressive on paper. He didn't code, didn't lead, didn't invent. But he had a last name that opened doors, and he carried himself like someone who'd never been told no. He didn't need to know how things worked. He only needed to know who worked for him. He floated through the startup world like it was a cocktail party thrown in his honor. Fundraisers, pitch events, yacht parties hosted by 30-year-olds in $1,000 hoodies. He never missed one. He didn't take meetings. He collected favors. People smiled at him like they were hoping to be remembered. I noticed that. I noticed everything. We met at a rooftop event in Midtown, the kind where the bar served imported gin with cucumber, ice, and people pretended they weren't watching each other. My husband was there, because I got him there. I'd spent 3 weeks working every contact I had to get him a 5-minute slot in front of a Tier 1 investor. It was our shot to break through. But 5 minutes in, he butchered the man's name, called him James instead of Jamie. It was small, harmless even. But in a room like that, it was a crack in the paint, one that everyone saw and no one forgot. He tried to recover, laughed awkwardly. I chimed in with a joke to smooth it over. But I could feel the subtle shift, the way Jamie's face didn't quite smile, the way his assistant's eyes drifted toward someone else mid-sentence. My husband didn't even realize the damage. He just kept going, enthusiastic, hopeful. I smiled, the whole time, but I was dying inside. When it was over, he went to grab a drink, completely oblivious to how far the needle had dropped. I stayed behind, trying to gather scraps of conversation, hoping to salvage some thread of connection. That's when I saw Spencer. He was standing alone, sipping something golden out of a short glass, and watching everything like a man already, bored with the party. Our eyes met for a second longer than they should have. He tilted his head, like he'd just figured me out. I turned away. He walked over anyway. "You're better than this room," he said, without even a hello. I blinked. "Excuse me?" He nodded in the direction of where my husband had been. "You're the one doing the real work, holding it all together, smiling when you want to scream." I didn't answer. He kept going. They won't say it, but they see it. You're polished. You move like someone who didn't grow up in rooms like this, which means you know how much they matter. That's rare. I hated how accurate he was. He sipped again, not even looking at me. You're the reason he's still in the game. My stomach tightened, because I knew it was true. And I'd spent so long pretending it wasn't. I should have walked away right then. Should have excused myself, gone back to my husband, kissed him on the cheek, and reminded myself why I started this journey in the first place, but I didn't. Instead, I leaned in, just enough to ask, "What makes you think you know anything about me?" He smiled, slow and certain. "Because I've seen your type before. Smart women married to brilliant men who don't know how to play the game. They're grateful, those men. But gratitude isn't strategy." Something about that line, "Gratitude isn't strategy," hit me in a place I hadn't acknowledged in years. Because I was tired of being the one behind the curtain. Tired of carrying us uphill and pretending I didn't mind. Tired of nodding, along while people congratulated him for things I made happen. Spencer saw that exhaustion, and he offered me something I didn't know I wanted until I tasted it. Recognition. Power, leverage. I told myself it was just a conversation, that I'd walk away and forget it ever happened. But that was the first moment I betrayed my husband. It wasn't physical then, not that night. But I'm well aware that that was the exact moment it happened. It was there, on that rooftop, when I smiled at a stranger who saw who I really was, and I didn't flinch. It wasn't love, not even close. Spencer was arrogant, self-absorbed, and married. But he was useful, connected, dangerous in the exact way I wanted to be. He offered me influence, not in the way most men do, with clumsy compliments or money wrapped in manipulation. Spencer dealt in intangibles, whispers, open doors, names dropped so casually you didn't know whether he was bragging or threatening. If you want to make sure your husband doesn't get buried by the next round of funding, I can help. That's what he said, just like that. No pressure, no explicit ask, just a sentence delivered with the smug confidence of someone who knew the game was already rigged, and that I could choose which side of the table I sat on. He leaned back when he said it, like he was testing me, watching to see how easily I could be bought. But it didn't feel like being bought at the time. It felt like being invited. 3 days passed. I spent every minute convincing myself I was still a good wife, still loyal, still invested in the man who built everything we had from nothing but willpower and code. I told myself Spencer was bluffing, that he didn't really have that kind of power, but deep down, I knew he did. Because in that world, the one of venture, capital, and strategic acquisitions, information is currency. Access is everything. One whisper in the right room can make or break your entire company. My husband didn't know how fragile his empire was, but I did, and I wanted to protect it. Least, that's the lie I clung to. We met again at a lounge in Tribeca. The kind of place where the music is low and no one orders their own drinks. Someone just brings you what you're supposed to want. I wore a black dress that didn't belong to the version of me who used to wear clearance blouses to investor brunches. I sat down across from him. He didn't say hello, just handed me a glass and said, "There's a term sheet being drafted. I've seen it. They're considering your husband's competitor. He's louder, cruder, but he knows how to make people believe he's worth betting on." I nodded slowly. Spencer leaned closer. That can change, but not on its own. The glass in my hand suddenly felt heavier than it should have. He wasn't flirting. He wasn't leering. He was stating facts. Like this was business. Like we both knew what this was really about. He reached out, just once, and tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers didn't linger. It was clinical, mechanical, intimate in the way a contract signing is intimate. I should have walked away again. I didn't. I told my husband I was attending a follow-up pitch event, something small, a A side room. Nothing formal. He kissed my cheek and told me, "Thanks for believing in me." That nearly broke me, but not enough. I went to Spencer's penthouse that night. No champagne, no candles, no theatrics. He opened the door, stepped aside, and let me walk in like we'd rehearsed it. There was no pretense of romance. He poured himself a drink and asked, "Are we clear?" I said, "Yes." Then I walked to him, unzipped my dress, and stepped out of what was left of my conscience. It wasn't passionate. It wasn't even good, but it was efficient. And afterward, he laid back on the bed, staring at the ceiling, like I stopped existing in the same room, like the last 10 minutes weren't real. I said nothing, because he was right. And worse, I didn't feel disgusted. I felt powerful, like I'd been handed the keys to something bigger than love. The affair wasn't messy. It was controlled, scheduled, clinical. I knew exactly what I was doing. He'd tell me which firms were circling, which competitors were out for blood. He told me which rooms I should be in and who to charm. In exchange, I played his game. AITA became his little secret. And somewhere along the way, I stopped looking my husband in the eye. Eventually, the company landed its Series A. But it didn't come from Spencer's father's firm. It came from a rival group. One Spencer had specifically warned me about. He'd said they were unstable, overly reactive, prone to backing out if anything looked messy. I didn't care. We needed the money, and I needed the win. When the announcement was made, Spencer called me that night. No greeting, no preamble. "You used me," he said. I didn't flinch. "You offered," I told him, flat. There was a pause. Then the line went dead. He never called again, never texted, never answered mine. I assumed that was the end of it, but it wasn't. What I didn't know, what I should have known, is that Spencer's father still had pull. A lot more than I realized. Even if his firm wasn't backing us, his opinion still echoed through boardrooms and partner meetings. 2 weeks later, the new investors got cold feet. A story leaked on a niche tech blog. It didn't mention my name. It didn't need to. Just a vague line about rumors of back-channel influence being used to sway funding decisions. Insiders knew what it meant, and in the contract my husband had signed, there was a clause buried in the fine print about reputational risk and integrity standards. If anything threatened the firm's image, they could pull out. No refunds, no explanations. That clause was triggered, and just like that, the money vanished. No Series A, no runway, no pivot plan. The company folded overnight. Everything my husband built, everything we built, was gone. And I had to look him in the eyes while he tried to figure out where it all went wrong. When he said, "I don't understand. We did everything." Right. I just nodded, because I couldn't say it out loud. We did everything right, until I didn't. He found out 2 weeks later. I was in the kitchen when I heard the front door open. He walked in holding a printout. A tabloid blog post, pictures, texts, a hotel check-in log. I didn't even try to deny it. He didn't yell, didn't cry, just stared at me for a long time. Then he asked the only question that mattered. "Did you love me at all?" I told him the truth. "I don't know." He left that night. I didn't follow him. The silence afterward was the loudest thing I've ever heard. Calls stopped. Invitations dried up. I became radioactive. People whispered. Some even laughed behind my back. Spencer vanished. His wife filed for divorce, and apparently he left the country for a while. My name became poison in every room I once fought to enter. It's been 5 years. I see my ex-husband online sometimes. He moved out west, started another business. Smaller, smarter, self-funded. He's remarried now, has a kid. The new wife. She's not glamorous. She's the kind of woman who bakes cookies and forgets what brand of jeans she's wearing, but she makes him smile in pictures. I never did that, not really. And me? I live in a sleek condo with perfect lighting and an overpriced sofa. I still get invited to certain events, but I always sit near the edge. People greet me like a memory they'd rather forget. I still have the wardrobe, the shoes, the bags, but none of them feel like armor anymore. They feel like punishment. I bought everything I thought would fix me, and I lost the one man who actually believed I wasn't broken to begin with.